Hello students, this is your lab faculty Jumana. This video tutorial is about the array labs. This is lab 9 and today we are going to learn about what arrays are, why should we use them and how to use them. And finally, I will explain in brief about how you will do your tasks. So as you can see in this doc file, there are about 13 tasks that you have to solve. So first I'm going to give you a brief about what arrays are and how to declare them, how to use them, and then I'm going to give you an idea of how to solve these tasks. So let's get into the description of arrays. So here is the PDF file for arrays. So let's read through this. So what is an array? Array is a data structure that stores a collection of elements or variables of the same type. So if you're creating an array of integer type, the elements within the array would be of int type. Same goes for string. If your array is of string type, the values that you would be saving in your array is going to be of string type. So in simple words, arrays are used to store multiple values of the same type in a single variable, instead of declaring separate variables for each value. So let me try to explain this with an example. Say you want to take 5 inputs from the user. Now to save those inputs into your program, what you would do is you would declare 5 separate variables. Say for example int A, int B, int C, int D, int E. Right, so for 5 different inputs that you're going to take from the user, you would be requiring to declare 5 different variables to save them. But if you're using array, you just have to declare one variable and you can save your 5 inputs into this one variable. Okay, now how we can do this? We can do this by defining the size of the array. For example, I need 5 inputs, right? So I can have an array of size 5, that is, it will hold 5 elements of the data type that I want to save. Okay, so let's go slowly. We will understand this eventually. So let's begin with declaring an array. To declare an array, what you have to do is first write the data type, give square brackets, and write the name of your array. So as you can see, there are some examples here. This is an integer type array. This is an array. This is described by the double square brackets here. And my array is the name of the array. Okay, so this is how you declare an array, and this is actually the preferred way, but there is also another way of declaring an array, and this is the way, but this is not really very preferred. Okay, so try to use this one. Now suppose you want another type of array, and the data type that you want to save is string, and say you want to name the array car, and of course since this is an array, you have to write the square brackets. Okay, so now this car array would be able to save string type elements or variables. Okay, so the name of the array is basically your choice. You can give your name, any name you like. Okay, and then write the data type that you want, but to mention that this is an array, you have to give this square bracket. So very simple to declare an array. Now let's see how to create one. So the left part over here, data type, square brackets, array name, is the declaration part, right? Now when you're giving a new keyword, you're basically creating this array. Okay, so new data type, and you're assigning the size of your array. So if you remember at the beginning of this PDF, I mentioned about that you would be giving the size of the array. So if the user gives an input of 5, you might want to have an array of size 5, right? So that 5, you write it down here. Now again, here is this example. My array is of int type, and it is being created because we can see the new keyword, and it's of size 5. So 3 things are taking place here, and that is declaration. The first part is the declaration. Instantiation is basically the creation. So since you're using the new keyword, the array is being created, and in initialization is basically keeping the reference, location or address of the array to this variable myArray. Yes, please do not get confused here. When you're creating an array, the variable myArray basically contains a reference, an address, a memory location where the 5 values would be saved. Okay, it allocates those 5 memory spaces for you to save elements in it of int type. So myArray basically saves an address. So let's look a bit deeper here. So this is my statement, right? Int square brackets myArray equals to new int 5. So myArray holds an address, a reference, a location. In my location, which is at the rate Gulshan here. By the way, at the rate Gulshan is a location that I am assuming. Basically, the location that myArray would be keeping is a hexadecimal value. Now, so you don't really need to know the exact value that myArray keeps. You just have to understand that it is the memory location that myArray variable stores. So therefore, let's assume the location is at the rate Gulshan. At that memory location, there are 5 spaces, memory spaces allocated for you to save the 5 elements of the same type. So since the length of your array is 5, the index starts from 0 and ends at 4. So though the length of your array is 5, the last index is 5 minus 1, which is 4, since it begins with 0. Okay, this is very important for you to remember. Remember, your array index starts from 0 and ends at 4. Length minus 1. Okay. Now there's another way of creating your array, and this is the way. Okay, before I explain this, one more thing. Since you can see I have created an array here, right, before, but I have created 5 spaces for saving my elements, but I haven't given those elements yet, right? So by default, my program will store 0 in those indexes. Okay. In the alternative way, I am creating my array of length 5. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm ensuring that my array, the values in my array would be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So in my 0 index, the value would be 10. In my first one index, the value would be 20. In the second index number 2, the value would be 30, and so on. So this is how actually it looks like. My array again saves a reference, and in my reference I have 5 spaces allocated, and in those 5 spaces I have kept my values 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Right? Yeah, so this is another way of creating your array. Now coming to array.length. What is array.length? So my array is basically the name of your array, and dot length with the word length, the length is a method. So basically when you're calling this statement, you are calling the size of your array. So here the size of my array is 5. So if I place this particular statement within system.out.println, it would print 5. Okay, so it basically prints the length of your array. So here I have mentioned the value 5 here, but what if I didn't, and I'm expecting the user to give me this value? So user can give you 5, 10, 50, anything, right? So you can determine what the user gave by myArray.length. Now this is going to be very useful. You will get to know eventually while we will proceed into coding. Okay, so now let's see, how do you loop through an array? So suppose you want to print the values in your array. One way to do it is without loops. You can write system.out.println, name of your array, and the position of the array the value that you want to see. So my array index 0, my array index 1, my array index 2, and so on. Now this is for 5 elements. But what if my array was of 5,000? What if the length of my array was 5,000? Then this method isn't really feasible, is it? So what we can do, we can use for loop, right? So here, as you can see, my index starts from 0 and it stops at say my array length was 5, right? So it should stop at 4, 0 to 4. So here my array dot length is 5, so it will stop before 5. That is, I is less than 5, so it will stop at 4. Okay, so my for loop over here will print the values in my array at index 0, then at 1, then at 2, and so on. So this is the very basic concepts of array. I hope this would be enough for you to perform your tasks. Now let's have a look at our tasks. Okay, so as I mentioned, I would be showing you the first few tasks. So let's read the very first task. Write a Java program that would input 3 numbers from the user and print sum, then the first number, then the second number, followed by third number. If user enters 10, 20, 30, then output should be 60, 10, 20, and 30. Okay, so this is a very simple task. What you have to do is you have to take 3 numbers from the user, right? So try to do this in a for loop where you're going to take 3 inputs from the user. Within the for loop, when you're putting the values of the users into the array, first in index 0, index 1, and index 2, try to do the summation within that for loop. Okay, so after you are done taking the inputs and doing the summation and coming out of the for loop, try to print the sum and then again print the values within your array. Okay, so I won't be showing you the code of task 1 because this is very simple. So I want you to try it on your own first. Let's have a look at task 2. Write a Java program that reads 10 numbers from the user. The program then reads a number between 0 to 9 and shows the number at the corresponding index number. For instance, if the array is A and the user enters 3, your program should print the value A3. Okay, this is also very easy. Again, for taking 10 numbers from the user, use a for loop and try to save those 10 numbers in the array, right? After you're done taking those 10 inputs, take another input from the user. Now try to tackle this if you can. That would be great, but if you can, it's absolutely fine. For now, you can assume that the user knows that the user has to give you a value between 0 and 9. Okay, so the value that user gives here, you're supposed to print the corresponding value in that index. So if user gives you 3, you're supposed to print the value in the index 3 at position 3. Okay, so again, I wouldn't be showing you this code, so please, I would suggest you to try it yourself first, and if you have any queries, ask us later. Now let's look at task 3. Write a Java program that reads 10 numbers from the user and then print them in the reverse order. Okay, now this is also very easy, but now since I did not show you any codes for task 1 and task 2, let's show you one coding for task 3. So now this is very simple. As you can see, since we definitely have to take input from the user, you have to import the scanner class, right? Yeah, and these 2 lines are to be written, since this is basically you're starting with a program and then you are creating a scanner object SC to take inputs from the user. Now I'm going to read 10 numbers from the user, so I am declaring, creating and initializing an array that has a name A of type int of size 10. Okay, so momentarily I don't need this. Okay, so what I do is here, first I prompt the user to enter 10 numbers, right? And then using a for loop, with the help of a for loop, I'm gonna take 10 inputs from the user. So as you can see, my array index starts from 0 and it should end at index 9, right? Since the length is 10. So using this for loop, I'm taking the input from the user. After I'm done with taking the inputs, I want to print the inputs but in a reverse order. So basically, I want to print the values of my arrays from index 9, starting from index 9, then index 8, then index 7, right? So as you can see, that's exactly what I did in the for loop. My iterator starts at 9. A dot length is 10, so 10 minus 1 is 9. So the value at index 9 would be printed first, and this will go on till I reach the index 0. Okay, very simple. So let's see whether this program works or not. So you see, we are getting prompt, please enter 10 numbers. So let me enter sequential values. So did you see? I typed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and my program gave me an output of 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Gave me an output of reverse order. That's all. That's simple. So I hope you understood this. Anyways, if you face further problems, further difficulties, you're always welcome to ask us questions in the Google Classroom. Apart from this, there are lots of tutorials already there in the YouTube. There are lots of tutorial videos that we would be uploading in the Google Classroom. Have a look into them as well, and try to solve the rest of the tasks. They're very easy. Just give it a try. If you have any problems, as I mentioned before, please question us, or if you face any difficulty, just simply ask us in the Google Classroom or email us, whatever you find convenient. That would be all about this lecture. Thank you very much, students.